Hey, it's Crumbs. You're lost? How do you not know where you are? It's Thorin's channel.
An attitude or mentality I am sick and tired of emanating from all things TSM is this load-bearing approach to blame and responsibility within their org. Now listen, I get it that there's a lot of eager young fans out there, optimistic, maybe haven't followed sports very long. They are going to jump to the defense of the team they support, the players they like, of course. But this is a mentality that not only permeates TSM's public statements, how they respond in interviews, the fact that they don't even do interviews with certain people because they're worried about criticism and backlash and they don't want to actually necessarily direct the story themselves always. There's the fact that I actually even have known people within the org who were in denial of some of the things we're going to talk about, some of the problems that have clearly been the case for a number of years now. Some of these are like systemic issues that go back season upon season upon season. Hence why TSM is one of the only big NA orgs to have no meaningful international results beyond one IEM, which took fucking Kuro of the GE Tigers deciding to play Yasuo, which he'd never played in his life before in a pro game in any context, and basically threw a series that otherwise would have meant they'd played the Korean team in the final. So you look at TSM and all the problems they have right now. So they have this jungler issue where repeatedly income aggressive, mechanical, like people who are proactive junglers, and they get turned into these ward bots and these players who lack direction. Actually, Acadian was one of the few players, at least up until this season, who seemed to have withstood it for a while. Svenskeren initially held off, amazing, might have got there just in time before they'd put in place this fucked up system, or maybe him being able to be a resilient guy mentally and battle back and speak for his own corner. Maybe he's even the reason it caused it and that they thought they needed someone that they could control a little bit more. Who the fuck knows, right? I've often had the theory in terms of the whole jungle angle that it stems from the fact that Reginald made that Season 2 TSM, the really successful one, based around people who were kind of beta males. They were the kind of guys who weren't going to shout and have an argument with him. We're going to let him do what he wanted, and he was the big alpha male voice in the team. Obviously, I'm using a very simplistic model there for people. And that's kind of how it worked, unlike CLG that had all the big, much better individual players, by the way, but all big alphas, all people who thought they were the leader and they should say their piece and they're going to listen to another guy. Now, if you want to bring up the idea that Bjergsen is in any way responsible for this jungler issue, the guy's now on his 8th starting jungler since he arrived in 2014. That's supposed to be unthinkable. How dare you? Bjergsen's an MVP. He's a champion. So somehow, that's not even something we're allowed to consider. Not something he seems to himself acknowledge, seems to think it's a narrative, it's a meme. So a narrative that people just made up, even though it's actually come true and happened seemingly many more times than even the people pointing out years ago would have suggested. I think when people like Kelsey have done our articles, I think there was something to that, and it has been borne out again and again with totally new people, but the same TSM, the same Bjergsen, the same Reginald at the top. Then you got the whole aspect where people will theorise anything but that this player could be involved or that the team could be the one doing it. Oh, it's this coach, or maybe it's the way that they communicate within the team, and then maybe it's when they bring a player in, the expectations set on them, and maybe, hey, listen, they didn't explicitly tell that guy to only be a ward bot and not to push up unless Bjergsen has mid-priority. Like, yeah, there's other ways to tell someone or to influence or coerce someone without overtly buying fucking skywriting across the LA sky to tell you not to do that. There's plenty of other ways someone could go ahead and do that. Then you've got the whole aspect where they've only even started to broach the idea of addressing some of these issues, acknowledging some of them now. I'm talking about externally and internally. I mean, otherwise, if you understood any of these issues were a problem, why would you keep recruiting guys over and over again who aren't going to make it through this system? It was bad enough when they were taking top players and ruining them. Now they've had these 3 young guys. They've had Acadian, they've had Greg, and they've now had Spicker, who they bring in unproven players. They let them get wrecked by the same system, the same problems that everyone's going through, the same machine. Why would you do that if you understood there was a problem? You obviously don't. You're obviously thinking somehow it's just those individuals. Somehow it's just all these junglers become way more passive and shitty when they're in TSM. Suddenly, all those genius shot caller support players, Yellow Star, Mithy, Smoothie, who've successfully led other teams to top international placings at times, big domestic success generally, being great at being lauded at their position for being good at that role. Magically, they join TSM. Oh, they all of a sudden can't shot call anymore. Must be a pure coincidence again. In fact, those individual players were just blamed, and everyone who's a TSM fan seems to just be in denial and is like refusing to look at what those players have done before and after their careers that wasn't them in TSM. Them in TSM's the fucking outlier, not the rest of their career. So then you've got the whole angle of Sven has had his problems, but then, we're supposed to ignore that because he had some good games in the spring playoffs. And true, maybe people are scapegoating him because Mithy's no longer there and it's just Sven now. Yeah, okay, I can see it's not entirely only his problem. Broken Blade, massively lauded in the spring, goes missing for half the split. That's fine, so it's not his fault. Bjergsen literally has some int games and quite frankly should have been nowhere near an MVP award, but was already being considered by some people. Some people even wrote him the best mid of the split, like over halfway into the split, despite the fact he was having some couple of bad games. I don't think he had an appalling split. He had some really bad games and then he had some games he didn't play like a carry, quite frankly, even in terms of what was drafted from. I think sometimes he gave up too much, tried to be too unselfish, clever way to offset some of the blame and responsibility, right? Hey, I didn't have all the resources. I didn't demand to carry. I didn't say to give me my power pick in the meta. I'm cool just picking at the end. I'm cool just going even in lane. Guess what? When you're the star player, you're the big contract guy, you're the guy whose legacy is going to be affected the most, you got to ask for the ball sometimes, mate. You can't just let other people make the decisions for you, because if they do, well, then you've got to live with the results of that, whether you think that makes it your fault or not. Ultimately, if you're a leader, if you're a top player, it is your responsibility in as much as you will be judged in your career for what happened. Now, you'll be judged as someone who lost best of 5 series to Clutch Gaming. It won't matter that there was a guy called Spicker who no one will know 5 years from now, or that Sven was in a bad part in his career, even though he had a great career over in Europe. That guy's already finished top 4 at Worlds. He's already had big placings, been in the final of MSI. You haven't got to do this yet, Bjergsen. You're not playing with the same stakes as these guys. Then, if Bjergsen does have some bad games, the way you offset the blame there is you ignore it. You say, well, look at all the really good games he has. You can't have a good game every game. If another player has a good game, though, like Broken Blade's just doing nothing the whole split. If he has a good game, if the jungler has a good game out of nowhere, Greg wins a match, you can't stop hearing people fucking talk about it as though the one game justifies everything else that happened. It's the different standards they even judge people internally and externally in the team, it seems. So the load-bearing approach to blame, which I despise, it's actually what I've always, if you've noticed the trend, playfully, but I think with a serious element to it, made fun of Mark Z for with his, Mark Z as I'd call him, with his whole blame game feature, which is that basically, if you've seen about 3 episodes of Blame Game, I'd say give you a little spoiler. Almost none of them are to blame. And the reason why is because, sure, I get Reddit are the ones doing this. He takes the whole premise that Reddit's saying, it's just this guy, like sneaky inted in lane or whatever. He takes that, and what he shows is because there's plenty more variables make you win or lose a game than just what the AD carry did, or just what the AD carry did in lane, or just what the AD carry did in his one team fight where he died early. Because there are always other factors. There's a setup elsewhere, there's wave management. When did the jungler pay attention? Was there a bad pick initially? Did someone misplay their lane conditions and draw jungle help when they didn't need it? Because there's a million factors. You can always, if you search hard enough and torture yourself enough, figure out a way that it wasn't entirely that person's fault. And so then somehow people then jump from that. It wasn't entirely their fault to they shouldn't be blamed. They should even be given a pass. Never really understood that because they even collectively do it for the whole team, even though surely some people in the team must be the ones doing the things wrong. As if you also simultaneously think Bjergsen's really good. Because I noticed TSM, when they almost won the split, everyone was hyping the fuck out of their players. Broken Blade, Arcadian. Then all of a sudden, they come along and they do badly. All of a sudden, Bjergsen has no good teammates, I'm being told, and his lineup's garbage. What the fuck? This was what I was hearing earlier on. And yet, even if he himself could be something to do with the jungle issue, we're supposed to ignore that because it's just that all the junglers are trash. Then if you're the top laner, well, can't play with that jungle help, have you? Haven't got a serious jungler there. Even though the guy we actually chose as our starter and committed to for the last 2 years was available to play, and we chose not to play him for most of the split. Then Smoothie, well, he can just blame Sven, can't he? Because Sven gives the more obvious hints as the ADC, and Sven has a longer rep of good success behind him, which allows him to survive for now. And Smoothie can get away with the fact that, oh, it's just Sven doing it. I'm just the support player. Well, where's your shot calling, homie? Where's that at, right? Then you have the whole aspect that Smoothie was his brilliant shot caller in other teams, Cloud9 most notably, and yet that's having no impact on this team. Are we supposed to just ignore that? Every single member of this fucking team can take some blame, but that doesn't mean they should all take it equally and allow the unit to just stay in a bad place systematically. I think this situation is way worse than people realise for TSM. Because remember, not only do they have Bjergsen for cheap in terms of what he could get if he went on the open market and signed with the biggest offer possible, but because he has resident status and has had it for a while now, they've been playing for these last 2 years, these last 4 splits, with an extra import slot. That's why they had Sven and Mithy and Bjergsen. That's why they had Sven and Broken Blade now. on top of Bjergsen, a player that's pretty much, except this split, every split an MVP candidate player. They're basically getting an edge over any team that doesn't have one of the imports that has become resident status. Yet what have they managed over those 4 splits, those 2 years? They went to Worlds 0 times, could still happen obviously, and probably even got a chance of it now. They managed 1 finals spot. They finished top 4 another time. And then they had 2 first-round eliminations, both to Clutch Gaming, a team that in the first time around did fucking nothing in terms of the overall league. And quite frankly, I think this time, I'm going to think that they're going to immediately smash by anyone in the semi-finals and won't do anything again. And this is a team that's already had Weldon Green working in the past on all the sports psychology training aspects. They've had coaches that have had success elsewhere. Song with Immortals made it to a final with a whole bunch of players who'd never been that far before. Then you had Zix, who obviously managed to win championships in CLG, get to the final of MSI, go to Worlds a number of times. Now, to be fair, Fnatic fans and Fnatic players and the Fnatic org also has a very similar problem, actually. A team that's got a broken down system. They've got their own issues stemming from the jungle. People are in denial. People just load Blair all the time. Reckless is allowed to have as many bad games as he wants because he's a good player overall, so you only look at the good games. Players like Broxer, if they have one amazing game, you're supposed to bow down and fucking worship the ground they walk on and ignore all the other games, or you're a hater. The problem for me is this. At the moment, I feel like, and this might have been the case for a few years now, I don't think TSM or being in TSM is about being the best. It's about not being the worst on the team. It's about not being the one who gets scapegoated. It's about not getting the one who gets kicked. That's the last few years. That's the thing in your mind, as opposed to let's shoot for it all and be the best. The same fans who hype them are going to turn on them super hard, and those players know that. That's why Zix famously, before he joined the team, said something ridiculous like it looks like it's cancer to work in TSM. Yeah, because the expectations and the pressure from all sides is ridiculous. The mentality seems, quite frankly, quite a horrible work environment internally. Contrast that with some of the other teams out there. They look like they're having fun, look like they're having a good time, or at least have the professional mentality where you don't feel like there's this backbiting element. Then look at Reginald's approach. Yet again, he steps in. He doesn't let Zix see it through, and therefore Zix fails on his own steam, can say, right, Zix, sorry, you weren't the right coach for me. I gave you your full chance, give you a couple of splits. You failed, now I'm going to fire and get someone who can do it. No, now he might even bring Zix back next year, even though he hasn't actually put him properly feet to the fire through the fucking gauntlet. Then you've got the whole angle where if Reginald stepped in, why is he allowing them to put a rookie jungler who's played 2 LCS games in his entire motherfucking life into a best-of-5 playoff series? Even one where you're a favourite and against an unlikely team like Clutch in terms of being upset. Because as far as I'm concerned, I don't care how well the practices the scrims went with Spica. They're almost worthless in the context of he's never played a playoff game in his life. He has no clue what it's going to be like. It's very easy to see how he could get flustered. The moment could be too big for him. He actually seemed like at times he played all right in the series. But even so, it's not a great look. It's not a team that you've got any kind of chemistry with. Then the idea you don't even make it an option to have the other 2 junglers, you just banish them with some sort of mad Cortez burning the ships moment, which, yes, if it had worked, would seem genius. There's no way back, boys. We've got to conquer this land. But guess what? If it works badly, you look like a fucking idiot, don't you? Now, listen, the sad thing is, I actually don't blame Reginald for some of his past recruitment decisions. I think I actually feel quite a lot for him in terms of, I thought it was the ballsy gamble, a potential upgrade to get Sven and Mithy over Doublelift. Especially Doublelift and Biofrost. People forget that part, right? I didn't think Biofrost was ever that great personally. He was a good player, but he was nowhere near the best LCS support. Then you got a whole angle where he brought Yellow Star in. Again, seemed like a brilliant move, quite frankly. Cutting Doublelift in the context of the Sven and Mithy move made absolute sense. Doublelift himself had never succeeded internationally. It's all well and good now saying you know he's going to win every LCS and he's going to make it to all the worlds and now you know he's been to the MSI final. No one knew that back then. He only won a couple of championships and then that was it, right? He'd only won 1, in fact, by the time he came to TSM. So I do think, though, now Reginald needs to have a very serious look at the squad that he's got, at the rosters he's putting together, because why is he gambling on unproven talent like these junglers? Why is he gambling on Broken Blade? G2 bought all proven talent, all pro level talent, made an amazing squad, they're unbeatable. Team Liquid bought all proven talent, all pro players, put them together, they're nearly unbeatable. What's stopping TSM? Surely financially they can be on a similar level. Maybe they don't want to be, in which case, fair enough. If I found that out from behind the scenes, I'd give them a little bit of a nod in that respect. But guess what? Now that whole gap's narrowed and you have teams that are going to finish 8th who can offer as much money or more than TSM, Yeah, you know what? Now you have to find some new reason for people to join the team. And the fact that they're going to get hated on, expected to finish first without the best roster ain't a really good reason. So I'm generally just sick of this whole load-bearing approach. Everyone, to some degree, deserves some blame for this TSM debacle. Maybe Bjergsen the least, but I'm actually skeptical that he is entirely innocent on the whole jungle issue. Some of the players, they have a scale. Some played well, some played not so well, some played bad, some played really bad. But I think you should let people take the blame. I know why you publicly don't do it if you're a coach, but my problem is I don't believe internally that they have the right approach to this at all either. And I think it's another thing that they need to really look at and have a really serious, reflective discussion about before they move forwards in future years, because the same problems are happening again and again. This video was kindly supported by Patrick Ribeiro, Penguin Off 9, Dean Tanglis, Andreas Snazore Westerlund, Fat Guy got 24 ADR in an online qualifier, Lee Chaolan, Blunt Smoking Anus Destroyer, JDubs, Chi Mao, Tobias Bernasconi, NateDOhDoubleG, Alexander Rao, Kolja G, and as always, special thanks goes out to Jerky's Minion. Now, do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for some of my content? Obviously, I have quite a varied output. Do you want to ask me a question for my monthly video AMA? Maybe you want teasers, see who the guests are on my next shows. Do you want to take part in a donator discussion with me about esports? Well, if so, put your money where your mouth is. Join the Scrilluminati today. In the description box below, there's a Patreon link.